Welcome back to my Jerk School. So we continued, or we talked about genetic diseases, how we're going into genetic disease now. Today we'll be going into an inborn error of metabolism, which is called phenylketonuria. Now it's also a genetic defect or a genetic disease that you can say that occurs or is seen in the body, and it's seen in the metabolism of phenylalanine, specifically the catabolism of phenylalanine. So here in this catabolism of phenylalanine, the first reaction is catalyzed by the enzyme phenylhydroxylase to form thyroxine. But now there's a problem with this enzyme. This is as a result of a defect in the gene that codes for this particular enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase, and this gene is located on the 12th on chromosome 12. It's located on chromosome 12. So when there's a defect in this gene, this causes a defect or a deficiency of the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase. As a result of the defect in this enzyme, there is reduction in the production of thyroxine from phenylalanine, and because of that, the amount of phenylalanine in the body increases. There's now accumulation of phenylalanine that was supposed to be channeled into its catabolism to form thyroxine. Now there are 5 types of phenylketonuria. We have 5 types of phenylketonuria. Now type 1 phenylketonuria is classic phenylketonuria, when there's a problem with the enzyme phenylhydroxylase. Now type 2 and type 3 is when there's a problem with dihydrobiopterin reductase. Now this enzyme converts dihydrobiopterin to tetrahydrobiopterin, which is the coenzyme for the enzyme phenylhydroxylase, and I made a video about coenzymes and cofactors. You should go watch that. I will link that in the video. And then for type 4 and type 5 phenylketonuria is when there's a problem with the synthesis of dihydrobiopterin. Now if there's no dihydrobiopterin, tetrahydrobiopterin will not be formed, because there's nothing for dihydrobiopterin reductase to act on. So those are the 5 types of phenylketonuria and what causes this phenylketonuria. Now, as a result of the accumulation of phenylalanine in the body, it is channeled into an alternative pathway. So now this phenylalanine is transaminated with alpha ketoglutarate to form glutamate and phenylpyruvate. Now phenylpyruvate is not just excreted out of the body like that. It is metabolized again, or it is reduced. It is reduced to form phenylactate and also decarboxylated to form phenylacetate. Now these are 2 metabolites that are being formed. Now phenylacetate can be converted to phenylacetylglutamine. Now all these conversions or this alternative pathway occurs normally in the liver, but in insignificant amount. But now when there's a problem with the enzyme phenylhydroxylase, it is channeled into this pathway, and now these metabolites are more pronounced in the body. So now there are actually some characteristics that characterize this condition that makes it easier to identify this condition in an individual and in an infant. So now the first characteristic is the moisty odor of the urine. Now when nurses perceive this odor from the urine of an infant, it is more like a signal or shows that infant might have phenylketonuria. Now what causes this moisty odor of the urine is the excretion of phenylacetate in the urine. That's what causes the odor of the urine. Now in these patients there's also hypopigmentation. Melanin is the skin pigment, and it is formed from the amino acid thyroxine. Now the first reaction from the conversion of thyroxine to melanin is catalyzed by an enzyme thyroxinase. But now accumulation of phenylalanine in the body competitively inhibits that enzyme thyroxinase, so it inhibits the hydroxylation of thyroxine, and therefore melanin is not produced in the amount it's supposed to be produced again, and thereby causes hypopigmentation, because the pigment melanin is produced in reduced amounts, or is produced in reduced amount, or not even being produced at all. Now under characteristics of this condition is mental retardation. Now the amino acid phenylalanine and its metabolites, they compete against necessary amino acids that are supposed to be transported across the blood-brain barrier into the brain for proper function of the brain. But now because of phenylalanine competes with them, and thereby the brain does not get all the necessary metabolites it needs to get, and then this causes mental retardation to an extent. Now we also have central nervous system problems. We have central nervous system problems. Now, in the cases of where I talked about there being a problem with the dihydrobiopterin reductase and problem with the synthesis of dihydrobiopterin, the enzyme and the substrate, dihydrobiopterin reductase and dihydrobiopterin, they are both essential and needed for the formation of tetrabiopterin. Now, tetrabiopterin is a cofactor, is a coenzyme for phenylhydroxylase. So now the coenzyme tetrahydrobiopterin is needed for the enzyme tyrosine hydroxylase and tridophan hydroxylase. Now, when there's a problem with this coenzyme, the enzymes have problem and not being able to catalyze at their full potential. Now these two enzymes are needed in the pathway where dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and serotonin are being produced, and these are essential neurotransmitters in the brain. So now when there's a problem with the coenzyme tetrahydrobiopterin, these enzymes will not be able to function at their high function effectively, not be able to function effectively, thereby causing a reduction in the synthesis of these neurotransmitters to the amounts that is necessary by the body. So now this causes central nervous system problems such as tremor, such as seizures, such as hyperactivity, and even failure to walk or talk in these individuals. There are treatments for these conditions to an extent. Now there is reduction. The first and the most prominent is reduction of the intake of phenylalanine. This reduction of phenylalanine, the amino acid. So now, if phenylalanine is not being taken into the body, there will be no need for the enzyme phenylhydroxylase to act on anything. If phenylalanine is not being taken into the body, there will be no phenylalanine that will be needed to be transaminated to form phenylpyruvate. So now, because the enzyme phenylhydroxylase is not functioning or it's deficient, so now the intake of phenylalanine is actually reduced or stopped in that now for the problem with tyrosine hydroxylase and tridophan hydroxylase, now the product of reactions catalyzed by these enzymes are administered. So now the product of tyrosine hydroxylase is L-dopa, and then the product of the product of the enzyme tridophan hydroxylase is 5-hydroxytridophan. So now they are both administered in the body. They are both administered into the body, although their clinical outcome is actually unpredictable. So that is all for phenylketonuria, and I also hope you got something because it was quite interesting for me. Yeah, so that is it for this video. Thank you, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and look forward to more. Thank you.